I love this game. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Problem is, once you've played through it once, all your runs after that are kind of the same. The same main bosses, weapons, materials, all in the same places. And sure, even after some 500 hours, you'll still find a couple new things here and there, but it'll still be a pretty similar experience to your other runs. Now, you can fix this with mods, things like overhauls to the bosses and world, like the Convergence mod, or the really simple solution, randomizers. Randomizers are incredibly popular in Elden Ring because, well, it's a whole new experience. None of your favorite weapons are where they're supposed to be, the bosses are in brand new locations, you can even move Great Runes around or completely change how the world fits together. Now, what if FromSoft saw this and thought, hey, that's pretty cool, and the community really likes it, so why don't we make it an official part of Elden Ring? That'd be pretty cool, right? Now look, they did that. Elden Ring Nightreign is everything you love about Elden Ring, except Ranni, kind of. Wrapped in a brand new roguelike package with 8 new major bosses, a revamped shifting Limgrave, 8 playable classes each with their own story, and a new fast-paced gameplay loop. And I love it. This game is designed around playing the 2 others, with a lot of the bosses having large AoE attacks designed to hit multiple people. Now of course, if that's not for you, either because you don't have friends, are terrified of others, or already beat the game with others and are looking for something a little more challenging, there's the option to play solo. The enemies here are scaled down to fit one person, but you don't get the luxury of getting revived 4 times in one fight like you would when playing with others. Initially, most of the complaints I saw regarding this game was that solo was too hard, but in the time it took me to beat the game solo, most people seemed to realize that it's actually not that difficult and instead went on to complain that duos weren't out yet. Still, I started playing solo when people were still complaining about it, so therefore, I beat Nightreign solo to prove it wasn't that hard, which everyone at this point already kinda knows. Now, a quick rundown of how this works. As I said, there are 8 bosses to fight. These come at the end of 2 night cycles, or about 30 minutes of gameplay. During these 30 minutes, you run around the camps, field bosses, and Everjails to fight mini-bosses, who drop a loot orb with options between weapons or buffs. You run to churches to increase your flask count, and you fight 2 night bosses, one at the end of each night. These night bosses include Dark Souls classics like Centipede Demon, Nameless King, or Smelter Demon, and Elden Ring classics like Morgott, Dragonkin Soldier, and Demi-Human Queen? Yeah, some are a little more difficult than others. After defeating your second night boss, you teleport to this tree room where you can do some last minute shopping before heading through the ominous gates and taking on the Night Lord, who in this case is... All the bosses have some sort of weakness that affects them in a special way. Gladius, for example, is weak to holy damage, and dealing enough holy damage will, well, weaken them, causing them to temporarily deal less damage and take more damage. I'll go over the other ones when we get to them. They also have phases, obviously. Would be a FromSoft game if they didn't. Gladius' second phase allows them to split apart whenever they feel like it. This is usually fine with 3 players because, well, you have 1 for each dog, but in solo, it's a little bit dangerous. Don't worry though, they do eventually recombine, and then you only have 1 dog to worry about again. At least until they split again, but when they did that here, it was already too late. And while it wasn't the most convincing victory, it was a victory nonetheless. Once you defeat a Night Lord like this, you get a few interesting rewards, namely some relics, aka buffs you can equip before going on an expedition, and Merc, the currency of this game used to buy skins, relics, emotes, and such. And that's the general gameplay loop. Now, I mentioned before that each boss had a specific weakness. Gladius was holy damage, and Adel, or Gaping Jaw as it's called in the expedition menu, is weak to poison. You can see exactly what each one is weak to before you start an expedition, which is a nice feature in my opinion. This means when you start up a run, you can immediately check your map to locate camps with the corresponding affinity or ailment, and go there to get a weapon that matches. Or of course you can do what I do and open your map only to realize that not a single camp on the face of the planet has what you're looking for, and come to terms with the fact that you're going into the Night Lord fight without anything that'll make the fight tolerable. Unless it's... but that comes later. In a situation like this, the best you can do is just focus on clearing as many camps and bosses to get levels, maybe some good weapons, and oh hey, it's Morgott. Nightreign has these funny new things where some creature or group of creatures will just kind of show up in your world. There's always some kind of interesting reward tied to them, so it's almost always worth taking care of the raid. Some of them, however, also have downsides to not taking care of the raid, or rather failing the raid. Take Morgoth for example. If you kill him, then every site of grace you've unlocked up until now gives you a small but permanent boost to your attack power. Really cool, right? Well, if he kills your entire team before any of you come back, you all get a debuff that increases the damage you take for the rest of the game. Which in solo terms means if you don't kill him on your first try, your run is over. Don't worry though, now you can re-roll your map and maybe this time you'll get a poison camp so you can fight Adel. So, after making it through 2 night bosses, not getting invaded by Morgoth, and unfortunately not finding any poison, it's time to fight. Now, I'll show you what the poison does because it's pretty useful information, but just not from this run because I clearly didn't get any poison armaments. Simply put, Adel will stop completely and vomit up the poison, which for all intents and purposes just kinda stuns him temporarily. On top of that, it only works phase 1, so of all the bosses to not have the required ailment, this one is probably one of the least impactful. There's also... So, without poison, there's another thing to rely on. Ultimate arts, or ults as I call it, because I have an unfortunate amount of hours in League of Legends, and I'm too lazy to say more than one syllable when talking about it. Each character has an ability and an ult, and on Wilder, that ult is a big fucking explosion. Side note, you get iframes for the entire ult animation on all characters. Anyways, big fucking explosion that, against most bosses, straight up staggers if you charge it. So some bosses, like Adel for example, are easy as 1, 2, 3, if you don't count the quick break where I became a chew toy for the angry creature. Still though, that's 2 Night Lords down, just gotta hope the next one isn't some kind of annoying duo boss with some of my least favorite moves in the game. Or the Sentient Pest is a really fun duo boss where one of them flies around and is constantly bombarding you with poison or airstrikes, and the other is a Scorpion with unbelievable gap closers and AoE damage on almost all its attacks. AKA some of my least favorite moves in the game. These guys are weak to fire, and luckily, I actually got fire camps this time. Then again, it's only the most common type of camp from my experience, so not really that crazy. I only end up visiting one of the camps to get a fire weapon, which I immediately ignored because I got Ordovis's greatsword. Twice. Ah, the beauty of roguelikes. So, Tibia Mariner and Nox Dragonkin Soldier later, and I'm off to fight my least favorite boss of the game. For the first phase, the 2 are pretty simple. Annoying, but simple. Scorpion runs at you, slamming its face into the ground repeatedly, and the moth flies around and plays mage, shooting poison clouds and blue orbs at you, and occasionally nuking the area with magic rain. Neither are super difficult, but both at the same time, I mean, it's a duo boss, you already know it's painful. Now, despite not having a fire weapon equipped, one of the Wilder's relics allows me to apply fire to my greatsword after using my ability. Unfortunately, Noster is the most boring boss with regards to its weakness, because it just simply isn't resistant to fire. No cool interactions or anything, just 35 to 40% bonus damage from fire weapons. This happens with 2 other bosses as well, one of which is the horse, but those bosses are cooler, so I don't really have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is duo bosses, especially when they pull a Power Ranger Combiner and make the stupid Bug Abomination Megazord. Like, what the fuck is this move? How do you dodge this without getting hit? Has someone no-hit this yet? Whatever, it's fine. I stagger them shortly after their Stampede Airstrike move, and after an ult, Spinning Blade, and a revive, they go down. Hopefully FromSoft relax a little from here on out. Now, I won't lie, when I was writing the script, I completely forgot about this boss. The whole hopefully FromSoft chills out thing was meant to transition into the boss after this one, but I got to the final boss script-wise and realized I hadn't talked about it. FromSoft did actually chill out with this one, to the point where you don't even need to fight the boss. It kinda does that for you. This boss is more or less just Ad Clear Simulator. It hurls jellyfish, tentacles, and nukes down at you, and you kinda just kill them. Then they explode into 3 low bubbles that chase down the funny water elemental, and bing bang boom, Augur did your job for you. There really isn't all that much to this boss. If you don't have range, you just can't destroy the nukes. And lightning doesn't really do anything other than slightly boost your damage, so 4 down, 4 to go. The next boss FromSoft decided to grace us with is Libra, aka Equilibrious Beast, aka actually Satan. It's a goat demon that makes deals with you that honestly end up favoring it more than you. Actually Satan is weak to madness, which is A, somewhat rare to find a camp with that ailment, and B, almost impossible to find a weapon with that ailment. You see, madness weapons don't really show up in madness camps. As a matter of fact, in my 100+ hours in this game, I have never seen a single madness weapon come from a madness camp. I've only ever seen madness weapons 2 times, from a really rare event where a tower spawns a Flame of Frenzy and you have to kill a bunch of cultists, at which point you get the option between a Frenzied Flame Seal, Vike's War Spear, or some random weapon. Getting this is incredibly unlikely though. Well, unless it's this run specifically, because that's where I got this footage from. So, 3rd time ever seeing this event, I am now set up to plow through Commander O'Neill, poor guy, and a Deathrite bird, stupid bird, and take on... So actually Satan is weak to madness. Don't ask me why the madness guy is weak to madness, okay? Moog is the Lord of Blood and he's weak to bleed. It's just FromSoft things. What matters is, when you build up enough madness, actually Satan takes a burst of damage where he gets stunned momentarily, at which point he gets mad. Like 100% maximum no chill kind of mad. This would probably also be a great time to talk a little bit more about revives. You see, in solo expeditions, you get a free revive for both night bosses and for the Night Lord. You're limited to one of these at a time, so if you don't die night 1 or 2, you still only have the one free revive for the Night Lord. However, you can get an item known as a Wending Grace. This takes up a pouch slot and works pretty much identically to the free revive. You can get these from a couple different sources, like the merchant right before the final boss, or the better merchants from the merchant POI, or as a really rare drop from bosses. Usually you won't have more than one of these in a game, and it'll usually be the one you buy from the Night 3 merchant, but occasionally, if you're really lucky, and you've been a nice boy or girl all year, Santa will bestow an extra 1 or 2 upon you, that actually Satan will then tear from your cold dead hands after he smashes your skull in for the 4th time. And look, I know this wasn't the most convincing win, but if the game is gonna give me 4 revives, I'm sure as hell gonna use 4 revives. Involuntarily, but that's not the point. The point is, 5 down and 3 to go. And it is finally time for... Okay, so he's actually a centaur, not a horse, and his name is Fulgor or Darkdrift Knight, but none of that's important. And neither is the fact that he's weak to lightning. Well, it is if you don't play Wilder or Raider, but those are my 2 mains, so to me it makes 0 difference. Lightning only deals 20% bonus damage to this guy, so half as much as what fire does to the evil bugs. On top of that, his resistances are awful. No physical resistances at all, and none for magic or fire. Like, this guy has some of the worst defensive stats I've ever seen in a boss, like, ever. I fought Nameless King before this guy. I fought Estelle. Oh wait, Estelle. Slight tangent here to explain. Limveld, or legally distinct Limgrave, not that that was really necessary, has 4 alterations that can affect it. These are known as Shifting Earth, which cause an entire new area to appear, that being either a volcano, mountains, the Rot Forest, or Nokron. Noxtella. Nocleteo? Are there 4 Eternal Cities now, or is this one unrelated? I mean, the architecture and enemies are really similar. Is this the nameless one? Never mind. The point is, each of these areas has a secret. A difficult thing to get that gives you some sort of huge buff. The one you get in Nocleteo is a free revive that also makes you more powerful for a period of time. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine here. But to get it, you have to beat Estelle. And because it's a secret, and also really strong, Estelle has to be scaled up a bit beyond the normal bosses you fight during nights 1 and 2. But hey, a revive is a revive. Not that I really need it, because it's actually really easy on Wilder. You see, the main use of lightning damage is for one specific move. Fulgor spins around, strikes a pose, and then stabs the ground. You get slowed to a heavier roll, and spears pop out of the ground. Lightning damage will stagger him out of this move, but for some reason, so will just about any heavy weapon. Just jump attack, done. That's his one singular strong move. Everything else is incredibly straightforward. He sprouts a second arm Dark Souls 3 style once he hits half health, and sure he gets some new moves, but he still keeps using his signature move of stand still and look menacing. It's literally just 3 free jump attacks and a bunch of stagger. His strongest move is so bad it makes it easier to fight him. So with that, we're done with 5 bosses and full gore, and only have 2 bosses left. I'd also like to apologize to the horse, it's not his fault that my class hard counters him. Next on the list, the obligatory FromSoft dragon boss, because dragons are cool. I mean, Seath was a bit of a bitch, but other than that, love dragons in this franchise. This one is an ice dragon. Oh, ew. It's Seath 2.0. At this point, you probably know the drill. He's weak to fire, scan map, fire camp located, run up, clear the camp. No greatsword, doesn't matter. I'm playing wild. I have built-in fire damage. Clear Noclateo again, bonk Estelle, free revive, boom goes the Night 2 boss. Wait, how did I hit level 15? That was some efficient clearing apparently, holy shit. And with over 60,000 runes to spare. Now, if you played Dark Souls 1, you probably remember Seath the Scaleless, that annoying frost dragon with icicles on the ground. Yeah, well, they decided to do that again. Fire here works pretty similar to how Holy worked on the dogs. After enough build-up, Seath 2.0 becomes weakened, doing less damage and taking more damage for a period of time. However, unlike the dogs, when Seath 2.0 reaches half health, instead of multiplying, Seath 2.0 just kind of pisses off and fogs up your screen. Then you have to listen for where a crackling noise is coming from, which is actually pretty cool for a FromSoft fight, and I feel like it goes a bit underappreciated. You then run towards the crackling and reach Seath 2.0 before the sky starts falling, and then continue on as normal. If you didn't make it there in time, well, my heart goes out to you. After that, you'll be mostly fine. There's going to be more icicles on the floor from here on out, and he does fly around and do Meteorite of Estelle, but like the iceberg version, which kind of falls under the same category as Nostra's bullshit stampeding airstrike move, but is limited to once per fight, I think. If Seath 2.0 can do it multiple times, I wouldn't know, because it dies before it can try another one. And with that, we're on to the final boss, Ulster, who I've already seen people theorize might be the Tarnish from the Rani ending, but they were corrupted by the Night. Honestly, kind of like that theory. Anywho, Ulster is weak to holy damage in almost exactly the same way as the dogs, but with a small added stagger when you proc it. And with 2 holy greatswords right off the bat, there are only 3 things that could ruin this run. An unfortunately timed raid, an unlucky night boss, or bad decision making. And boy am I about to make some bad decisions. Final little thing I want to talk about in regards to the Night 1 and 2 part of the game. Sometimes actually Satan will show up in Limveld. This can either be as a raid, like with Morgott, or he can show up like a merchant at the beginning of the run. Either way, you get the option to make a trade with him. The raid version gives you all the options, with the merchant version only giving you 3 choices. My favorite one is usually more runes, but that wasn't available here, so instead I make the mother of all bad decisions. Eventual Greatness. Basically, until you defeat your next night boss, your health, FP, and stamina will all be halved. But should you defeat said night boss, you get all of it back, plus more. Somewhere between 20 and 30% more from what I could tell when one of my friends got it. But if you die or get down just once before you beat that night boss, you go back to normal and the buff is gone for good. Now, this doesn't sound all that bad, but it incentivizes you to play safe, costing you a fair few runes and potential weapon upgrades. And odds are you probably don't even get anything out of it, because not getting down once in this game, while missing half your health on a melee character while playing solo with no one to draw aggro for you, that's not easy. On top of that, there's the nerves as well. Luckily for me, I'm a god at the game, so there was never a question whether or not I'd make it through Night 1 alive. So, with Eventual Greatness active, I was feeling confident that this was the run. So confident that I was even willing to try fighting a Bellbearing Hunter. Fuck, Morgott's back. Luckily for me, this idiot waited way too long with his invasion, so he got blasted right back to his sewer home. And suddenly, every camp I've cleared and field boss I've slain is buffing my damage. So, Health and Steeple goes from an attack power of 173 to 203, without having to do anything. This looks to be about a 2.5% increase per side of grace, given that I have 7 stacks, but feel free to double check that, I don't really trust my math here. After that, I just round up as many sides of grace as I possibly can before going to fight. Now, this guy's a bit special. You see, at around half health he pulls out a different sword, kinda like Phase 2. Except, this wouldn't be a FromSoft game if there wasn't at least one boss with a second health bar. Or, I guess, an Elden Ring game. They didn't really do that second health bar stuff in Dark Souls 1. And I didn't really play enough Dark Souls 2 to tell there. They did it in Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro. Anyways, point is, this is where it gets difficult. You see, here, how is that missing? How? Why was he easy? Why was the final boss easy? Yeah, that's the final one. That's the last one. That's it. Game's over. This is Jim Pro. Hey, thank you to those of you who made it to the end of the video. It's been a pretty fun process getting here. If you enjoyed, I'd appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribed. And I also stream on Twitch, so feel free to come check that out at some point. I'll link to that as well as my socials down in the description. And again, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope to see you again soon.